For example, you can manage your users in Firebase. You can do other things. You can manage any users from straight here instead of creating your own authentication system. That very tiresome. You can actually implement that. You can implement all different ways of authentication with Firebase, and that one you can do either it in front end, or you can do it still in back end. Either way can work. This one is very flexible, and this Firebase is just like for those who have interacted with MongoDB. So this Firebase is just like MongoDB, but this one is it has some extra features that we can use. For example, we have authentication. We can still host our platform right here. In Firebase, we can still check on real-time database in case we want. We can check analytics. We can track the user's behavior or users behave in our application or in our software at the same time. Still, we can monitor how many people visits our websites, and at what time how many people are still there in our platform. For example, maybe I can load this. Then this one is just a demo, and then go here to my database where in my analytics where I'm tracking this up. Then I will see the number of people in my platform might increase depending on the number of people that are using this platform. So that one is a feature that we can, all those features we can, as you can see now, you see it has increased to two, one from United States, one from Kenya, and that one was me. So these are things that you can integrate easily with Firebase, with any other platform, and actually you can track the user's behaviors. By default, the normal, you are not collecting any data, but you're just tracking the behavior, how people interact with your platform, how people use your platform, for how long, all those things you can track by default using Firebase and all the features that have been provided by Firebase. We have extra features that we can't finish. We have the cloud functions that we are going to explore today. We also have some a database that we call storage. Here you store just images, and the rest, videos, files, you store them here. It's advised you store them in storage. We have people who are using Flutter, and the rest you can use any other thing that you want to do. Here you can host your platforms. Here in your Flutter, you can test your Android, you can test your iOS application still here in Firebase. So Firebase is very big. We can't exhaust all the features that are there for us to use. So in case you have never interacted with Firebase, I would advise that you check it out, and also you can try it. You can try Firebase. It's a very great platform that you can utilize, especially for your application. In case you don't want to hard code everything, Firebase is there for you to guide you, help you manage your users, manage your data in collections and everything. We are going to explore some few features over there. So you can also check the analytics of your application, how your application is performing, Flutter, all this for some few games and the rest. You see, Firebase is very big. You can do anything that you want from Firebase. So something that I would advise you check it out. It's not a must that you every time you use MongoDB, every time you use these other traditional databases, maybe you can explore something greater, something new, just like that, and then you be a better developer. So in software development, we have different tools that we can use just to achieve the same thing. So you can choose, you can explore. I think the last session, we were exploring some good things to do with MongoDB, and it was very awesome in whatever task we were performing. See, now Firebase still another option that we are going to explore. That is very cool, and it will perform most of these things. So Just to get into the main topics that we are going to check on Firebase Cloud Functions. So Cloud Functions are just like how do I put the Cloud Functions? Cloud Functions are just like the backend part of creating your application. So you initialize a backend. Then after initializing these backends, now where you manage your users, where maybe let's say a user signs up into your platform, maybe you have seen this feature in most of the websites. Once you sign up or once you create an account with that platform, they automatically send you an email, right? Then now instead of now add coding all those things, we can use Firebase Cloud Functions, check if there is any new user that are signed into our platform. Then if this user are signed up into our platform, then automatically send them an email. But we can check all those things with Firebase Cloud Functions. So Cloud Function does some of those things, very good things there. So Cloud Functions, I've said it's a very, very awesome thing that we can check out or we can explore. But we need to start from scratch by creating an empty project, then things like that. And also, for those who still have not yet heard about Cloud Functions, Cloud Functions are also, we can call them in layman's language, you can call them serverless frameworks that are provided, or serverless framework that is provided by by Firebase, that allows you to run backend code the same way that I've explained. It's used to run your backend code, and in response to that, it triggers some Firebase event. For example, the event that I've said, if you sign up, then it triggers an event, then it listens to that transaction, and then it does the something that is necessary according to that event that has been triggered. And all these events are triggered in HTTP S requests. So those are the things that you can still learn um, with Firebase and the rest. So we are going to do that. So don't worry. So I think we can just create a simple platform, and this platform we are going to assume that we are adding let's say we are adding a user to our database. Let's say I'm assuming I'm creating something like students portal, and I want to notify this student that they have been added into our system. How do we do that? I take all the user details, the rest, blah, 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 the name, email, phone number. Then after that, I load that student's details to the system. Then once I save, I send notification to the student that blah blah blah, you have been added to this platform, you can access this platform in this way, and then I can send that notification to that email. But that is done automatically. Once data is being saved to the database, then this student can receive information that you have been onboarded to the system. That's just one example. And maybe you can be having a complex application where you want to add some admins into your platform so that they can access certain URLs or certain pages. Now you can create that simple UI where you can just add the username, email, blah blah, phone number, and the rest. Then from that you can notify this person that you have been added as admin, you have been added some admin privileges into our system, blah blah blah, all those kind of things. Another thing that you can do, maybe you see this, for example, those who are very very keen when using this platform, that is social media platform. You see the kind of people that maybe you have followed several people, and once they post, you get a notification. That one thing you can also build with Google Cloud, with Firebase Cloud Functions. Very simple. I can show you how to do that. Maybe once I post, then I go to my database, all the system goes to the database, checks the kind of people that are following me, then send notification to them. Very simple, using cloud functions. That is Firebase functions. So that one is very, very achievable. We are going to see these some all these exciting features and how you do it. This one we are just going to do with Node, but this Node is just the normal Node or the normal JavaScript that you have been writing, but it might be slightly different from what you are used to. But this one is the way that Google have defined. This is the syntax. This is the documentation of using our cloud functions to do this so that you can achieve these things. Still the normal JavaScript that we write, but I'm going to show you the slight difference when it comes to that. It's just the syntax and how you arrange things over there. So let's create a simple platform where now I can add a user to the UI. I can add email, I can add an extra detail. Then from there, the user now, they will receive an email. They will receive an email that's notifying them that they have been added to our platform, blah, 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 all those kind of things with Google Cloud Platform, and see how amazing this tool is. So first thing, make sure that you have a Firebase account. And Firebase account, you don't have to create an account. If you have a Google account, by default, you have a Firebase account. If you have a Google account, by default, you have a Firebase account. You just need to now start working on this project. Maybe I can show you how to create a project. This is how you create a project. Go to console.firebase.com. I can share this. Just go to console.firebase.com and then you'll land into this page. And then here you'll be able now to create your project. You'll be able to create your project. So what do you do to create your own project? Just click on there, create, that is the plus button. In case you don't have any project, it will tell you create a new project or start a project. Then right here, I want us to be very keen right here. Here you can just type your project name and say, I can say awesome project, like that. And maybe I'm running out of projects, but I need to check that. So I can create this awesome project, just the name of your project that you are working on. Then I click continue. Then I can read through all these pages and just know what I'm going to get once I create a project, all the features that I'm going to get, Google Analytics, all those kind of things. Then you can click continue. Then inside here, we need a Google Analytics account. And this Google Analytics account is the one that is going to track, is the email that we are going to get notification, your page this day received this number of views, these people from this location accessing your website, all those things. The Google Analytics account is the one that you are going to get those emails and the rest. So here, by default, I like using the default account for Firebase. The default account. Don't care. Don't worry about the default account. It's the one that you have signed up with here. So then after you select your default, then click on leave. Then click on that that is complete and the rest. And then we wait for our project to be created. But in the meantime, as we wait for this to be created, we just want to use some small React and Node. We don't want to use the normal languages, blah, 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 blah. No. Let's just use some React, write some 10, 20 lines of code of React, and then we call it a day and show you how you connect these. Actually, show you how these are really connected, and it's very simple. Some people maybe are wondering, how do you connect front end and back end? Very, very simple. Either use things like Axios, Fetch, and then you connect front end and back end. Otherwise, you can decide not to. Those are things are very, very possible. But I'm going to show you. We are not going to use either Axios or Fetch just to connect the front end and back end. I'm going to show you how you utilize this Firebase fully, and then you connect these platforms and the rest. Now, with that, you will have already created your Firebase project, and that's it. You have already created your Firebase project. The rest we are going to do from code. Then it will automatically send things to the database. But one thing that we need to set up, last thing that we need to set up here is our application. Here, after we create a project, we are free either to use an Apple, to use Android, that is iOS, Android, web application, Flutter, Unity, and all the rest. Now, this one depends with the project that you are working on. Once you create that, because we are working on web, we click here on web. Then, after we click here on web, now we create a project inside that main project that we have created. So inside here, we can call it, let me just call it the same name that I've called it, and then that's it. But I'm using React, and we know that React, we can host our React app in Firebase. So I can click this, also set up Firebase hosting, because I want to host my website here in Firebase. Maybe I don't want to host it in Netlify, all those other platforms, Vercel. I can still host it here in Firebase. Very simple, and then you can track all the things that you need to do with hosting. And another thing that I've not told you about this Firebase hosting is that you can revert back. Maybe today I've hosted a version of my app, then the next session or the next time, maybe tomorrow I host a different version of my application of my website. Now, once I deploy this to the cloud this time, then it will keep that as a version. Then tomorrow I deploy it, then it will keep that as a version. But also you can deploy it in multiple times. Maybe I deploy it now, 10 minutes again, I deploy, 30 minutes again, I deploy my website. Then it will keep all those different deployments as versions. And maybe let's say, for example, the update that was pushed yesterday by the devs that broke the computers. Now, let's say I've pushed that, then imagine I can just click a button in Firebase, then I revert back to the previous deployments. That's simple with Firebase. It offers all those different kind of features. This one you can deploy a feature, then it fails on the way, then you revert back the changes, you get the previous working deployment. And also all the way you can now just deploy the first version that was ugly of your application. You can still get it. Firebase gives you all those kind of things. That's why I advocate for Firebase. So once we set up hosting, click register, and we wait for it. And Firebase, again, it offers you some free tier and also some Blaze tier where you can just upgrade and just decide to pay for these Firebase features. So we click on next, then we click continue to console, like that. Okay, once we are there, that means we are ready to go. Our application is up and running, and then that's it. Everything is set. The next thing, maybe if we are getting the configuration file, but let's do this. let's create a simple React app that is going to send data to the database, and then it does its magic thing. So the next thing we are going to see how we create a simple React app. It's very simple. How do we create a simple React app? I have a course specifically for React. You can just come here to progskill.com, then you learn React. So it's guiding you on how to do these things. So we are going to use to create a React app. We have different ways of creating React apps, either using the normal way that is create React app. We can use Vite. We can use other things that we can use to create our React apps. But let me just choose to go with creating React app with Vite. So I have my VS Code open, and here I'm going to show you how you create your React app with Vite. So here in our command line here in my terminal, I'm going to open my terminal. I'm going to run, because I'm using yarn create Vite, and imagine I'm creating a React app, and it will with Vite it will give me the options now to decide which framework I want to use. Maybe if I click this and enter, then this one is going to request for my project name here. This one is going to request for the project name that I'm going to add here. So here I can just add something like awesome. Maybe I can call it functions lesson. That is the project name that I want to use. Then here, as you can see here, actually you can use Vite and create the vanilla JavaScript, the normal JavaScript that we use. You can use Vite, set up creating your Vite app. You can either decide to use Vue, React, Preact, Lit, Svelte, Solid, Quick, and others. Others, when you click others, you'll see other options. But because I want React, I'm moving with the with my arrow keys, that is up and down. So move with your arrow keys up and down just to select the one you want to use. Then enter once it's React. Then here, anyone with any question? Someone raising his hand. Yes, Collins. Yeah, good morning to you. Mhm. I didn't get you. Mhm. 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 Mm. Okay, maybe after the session you can share. We check it out if yeah. So over here now we can select again. In React, do you want to use TypeScript or do you want to use normal JavaScript? Do you want to use Remix? Maybe. Let me just use the normal JavaScript that we use. Still move with your arrow keys, then use JavaScript, and there we go. We have created our React app. Now, we need to set up some few things. We have been guided here on what to do here. We have been guided here on what to do. So the first step, I'm going to cd change directory to functions lesson. Then the next step, I'm going to yarn, just type yarn in case I used yarn, but in case you used npm, you are going to be guided. You see, we have different ways. This one here, pnpm, npm, you'll be guided still on what to do. We can wait for it to do its own thing, just to install the dependencies and the rest. So we can wait for it to do its own thing. Then as we wait for it to do its thing, I think it's done. Yeah, it's done. So I'm going to open this folder because I'm opening two different folders. Let me just open the one folder that I want to work with. So go here. This one is the one that we have created here. So let me just open this one like this. There we go. And then now we start creating our React app. We have been guided fully on what to do. So the next step here, we are going to yarn dev. You run yarn dev to open your server or to run your application. This one is a framework. You need to ignite it. You need to start it so that it works. So this one is the path. You can just click this link. Then once you click this link, you can see it has opened your React. It has opened your React app. This is how once you set it up, you are going to see it look like. So this is what our application looks like. So we just want to create a simple input thing just to accept some few things. So this one is very simple. So let's do it. We are going to do away this existing code. This is a boilerplate that has been provided. Then just go to your src, see this src folder, then go to your app.js. Then we do away with existing code. I want to do away with this code all the way from here to here. I don't need that. I don't need this. Then I don't need all this code as well. Then I can rename this to be the main, like that. And our application now should be empty, like that. That's how we do it. So here, I'm just going to create a simple input field here. I can create h1 in case you want to learn more about React. I have this course here that I can share with you to learn some React basics. It has some support videos that are going to guide you on how to do React. I've shared the link. You can explore that React course. It has very good topics for you to check on. So here I'm going to use some input fields. So this one is a boilerplate. It's a JSX code in mixture of JavaScript and some HTML with CSS all the way in one component. This one is a JSX code, so don't worry about. You can just go and check. Also, in this course, we are covering about JSX. We are going to learn what is JSX and more about JSX. So inside here, I'm going to write everything. I'm going to write here is the normal HTML. Let me just write the title and call it Firebase Cloud Functions Session. Firebase Cloud Function session. Then inside here, I can create a div. I can create the normal HTML div that we have, as always. Then I can create an input field, and this input field, I'm also going to create a button for it, and this button for it will be add user, like that. Now, maybe once I add a user's email here, then I click on add user, then this button should send email to our database. Once it sends this email to our database, this user details to our database, then this person will also be notified. The owner of this email that we have inputted here will also be notified that we have been added to our platform, and just a message that you can draft depending with the function that you want to achieve. So let's see how we really create these things to do with React. So now how do we connect this to the backend? First, using JavaScript, we need to implement states. This one states. We need to implement states, and these states now they will track the email, and also we use set email, so that I'll show you. I'll explain this further once we are done with the code. So this one is a state management where I am going to manage all the user inputs. That is the state. The state here, once I add something here, is going to track everything inside here, and I've managed that particular state. And I've also managed that particular thing that has been added over here. So I'm trying to manage state here, and we know our input here is a type of string. Then make it just a type of make it a type of string, just like that. Then here, now we are tracking this email. So the next thing that we need to do, because we are tracking the state of this input, the next thing that we need to do, we need to track the value of this. And this value is the email. We pass this email over here as a prop. Now, we have tracked this email over here. I want you to see something that will happen to our application. Once I start typing, I'm typing here. You can't see any input field here. Yes, I'm tracking the state, but I've not completed tracking the state. Once I type something, it's not working. So I need to do, I need now to track the changes in the input field. So we use onChange. So we use this onChange. Then onChange, we are going to make it an arrow function. And this arrow function is going to do something. The first thing that we need to do is now setting up the email. We are going to set up the email, and here we are going now to track the input, the value of the input field, and all the rest of the things. So once we are done like that, we also need to pass an event here. Then this event here, we inside here where we have the set email, and this is set email is this one here, in case you are wondering where we got it from. So here we pass event, that is the e dot target, the target dot value, and our target is this input field here. This is the target, so in case you are wondering. And now once I write that, now my input field is open, and now I can use my input field as well. But again, maybe I can send something here, and once I send, there's nothing that is going to happen because we have not connected our Firebase with our front end. So the next thing that we need to do is actually connecting our front end. That is our Firebase here. That is our React with Firebase. So what we need to do is actually create a configuration file. Make sure that you are inside this source. Just click the source and you can call it utils or config.js. This is where we are going to add our utility files. So where do you get these configuration files? Very simple. Go to your Firebase, the project that you created. Click here on settings, then project settings, then scroll all the way down. Then once you see this code is the last part, click on the configuration. We have npm, cdn, you can explore, we have configuration. Then copy this configuration. Simple. Once you copy that, just paste it here. And we have our configuration file with our API key, with our authentication domain, project ID, storage bucket, messaging send ID with app ID, measurement ID just to track our Google Analytics for Google Analytics purposes. So that's how you get that configuration file in our application. Now, once we are done, now, Luca, yes, Luca. Okay. So, by default, your application will be somewhere here. That is the once you are done setting up. So to get the configuration files, that is where the configuration files are the ones that we are going to configure our code with our real database. So click on this project overview, this settings button here, then click on project settings. Then you can scroll all the way to bottom. Then we have these parts where you have this code. See, this configuration file is the same that we can copy. You can still copy it the same lines of code. Still, you can just simplify it. This one is just the configuration file alone. Copy it, go to your code. Once you are here, click on the src. Then here you can create the utils.js file that I've created, or any config.js file. Then after you create, you can paste this configuration file over here. And that's it for creating that configuration file. But we need to do some certain things. The kind of things that we are going to do here, we are going to add some things. And just before this, I'm going to import something here. That is, I'm going to import the whole Firebase module. That is, import Firebase from Firebase. And I can see that maybe you can know if you have installed any module by default. For example, if I type Firebase here and I don't see any suggestion, and I don't see any suggestions here, that means because Firebase, we want to use it as a module, we need to install that Firebase as a module. So what do? We add yarn add Firebase like that. We just run Firebase yarn add Firebase in case you are using npm install Firebase. In case you are using pnpm, still the same way. Then we can just wait for it to install the Firebase module in our application. So as we wait for it to install, we can continue writing this code. So we need to import Firebase. How do you write Firebase? We have new documentation says that we use the combat then we use the app, and the app is this application here that we are going to make use of. So the next line of code that we need to do, because at least I know we need Firestore. So what we are going to do, we are going to import Firebase. Now you can see I can get these suggestions. I'm going to use the combat. Then as you can see, I can get all these suggestions. By default, Firestore. I need Firestore database because I am going to use it right now. Then I think we are done. We don't need anything else. We need the combat and the general application. We need the Firestore because we are going to use it, but this time we don't really need the performance and the rest. So once I add my code over here, now I can do one thing that I need to do, very simple thing. So here I'm going to create a function db is equals to Firebase app, and I'm going to show you how you import this Firebase app. Then in our Firebase app, we use the Firestore. So this one here, the Firebase app, is actually this Firebase configuration file in case you want to use this Firebase configuration. But I want to rewrite this in a different way, this one here. So I'm going to rewrite it and call it const Firebase app, the Firebase app that I'm just trying to use. Then here, this one will make use of the, yes, hello. Is everyone seeing my screen? Is there anyone else who's not seeing my screen? You can type on the chat if you can see my screen. Yeah. Thank you, Eugene. See, you can see my screen. Maybe you can refresh and then you try it out. So I'm trying to rewrite this in a better way because I've used the Firebase here. I'm going to still use it here. So I'm going to write Firebase app dot initialize app. I'm going to use initialize app. Then inside here, now I'm going to add the configuration file. And that's simple. I'm just going to copy this, the exact configuration file, then add, and then do away with this one over here. This one looks better. This one looks understandable. Now we have this Firebase app, the general application that I'm using it here. I initialize app, you start your application. The way you get in it, you initialize your application as well. Then here I define a variable that I call it db. Then I use the Firebase app. Then I call Firestore because I want to use Firestore. Now the next thing that I need to use, see this function here, you are writing this function in a different part. And we are not writing it here in this same file. So what we need to do, we need to export this function. And to export this function, we export like this. Now we have exported this function that we have written over here. That's simple. We have exported this function and we are done with our configuration file. So if we are done with our configuration file, now we can continue with the other parts, that is sending our data to the database. How many lines of code do we need to send our data to the database? probably 7, 5. So before we send data to the database, Firebase doesn't store things in terms of tables and the rest. It uses collections. We call them collections. Maybe we have a we have a blog where you have collection of posts, and in this post we have the post name, the content itself, we have images, all those things. Those are collections of documents. So we have the collection and then we have the documents inside the collection. Maybe I can create a collection of users where I have a list of users, but each user in the system will be termed as a document. That's how Firebase understands its things. So we can continue now. If now we see to understand things by collections. So instead of writing table, blah, 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 those SQL things, we are not going to write any SQL thing. And that one should be very easy on us. So we define a variable, not a variable, but a function that we call it add user. And this add user is going to be an arrow function. I like using arrow functions because I don't have to initialize it later in case I forget. So here, you remember this function that we exported it here. Now we can use it. We call db. Once I type db, you can see it understands it in the util folder. So make sure that you import db and then it will import it here, this function. db dot collection. We call it collection. We have said Firebase uses collections. So inside here, our collection should be something like a string. So I can call this one user. I can call this user test program. Maybe today, maybe you can use any name of your choice here. This should be one name. That should be a single name. That is one word. Instead of now writing user test program dash today, no, it should be one word. Then the action of sending this data to the database, the action itself, we call it dot add. Now, you remember these functions, the post, create, delete, and update, the way you use add, the way you use create, we used post method. Now in Firebase, we use dot add. But here, our data can be an object. So what we need to do, we just write brackets, then here we pass the object that we are going to add. And what do we need to add? Only one thing. We need to add an email, and we know an object is a key value pair. So here I'm going to pass the email, and this email is this email here. Or this one is just like a name. Maybe I can say user email in case you want to see the user email like that. Something different from this. This one is just like a key value pair. This is the name, then this is the value. This is the key, this is the value of that key. But Firebase is so good, it's so smart. We can, for example, you have seen posts and then the post will tell you it has been posted 30 seconds ago. How do we add that time to the database, and then it reads that post it was added 30 minutes ago and the rest. We can add that one. Here, we can add the key, and we call this one is the timestamp. I like using timestamp. Then inside here, Firebase, I've said Firebase has a lot of features that we don't even know. For example, we can track the time that our post really entered our database or was created in our database. Even the millisecond, we can track it. So what do we do? Because Firebase has all those kind of features ready for us to use, what we need to do, we just need to copy this line of code here, the Firebase compat thing, then add it right here, and this one now will import the Firebase module. So what we write Firebase dot listen to our Firestore. Firestore is the database that we are going to use. I've said in Firebase we have different uh, databases. We have we have the Firestore database, we have the storage database, and we have the real-time database. So we have three different kinds of databases that we can use in Firebase: real-time, storage, and Firestore. We are going to add our data in one of them, and we are going to use Firestore. But going to Firestore, then check the field value. The field value is the value of that particular type. So in the field value here, firebase.firestore.field value, then we have the server timestamp. So we have the server timestamp. As you can see, it's being suggested over here. If we write our thing correctly, this one is a function, call it. Close it like that, and we are done. But I want a certain functionality. For example, once I add an email and then I will click here. If I click, nothing happens. So that one might send to the database. I want now to clear this input field. By default, if I click submit, I clear this input field. How do I go about that? I can just add here, come outside here and add dot then and make it an arrow function. Then like that, and very simple. Set the email state, set email like this. You set the email back to an empty string like that. If I add, then send this data, then the input field after that should be left blank, and we are done with creating our application. So the next thing that we need to do is actually test our application if it sends data to the database. So it's a moment of truth. So let's just add an email at gmail.com. Let me add this, then go to my Firestore. We go to the Firestore. Where is it? Let's wait for our Firestore database. We see if we have anything. But I think I've left something. You see this function? See this function? This is just a function, but we have not called our function. So how do we call our function? In a normal way, we just call our function that way. But this one can't work in our application. So we want this function to be triggered by a certain event. And the event will be basically adding, when we click this button on click event, then now it should be able to execute that particular function. And there we go. As you can see in our Firestore, nothing has happened. Maybe I can send this again. I can send this. Okay, sorry, my internet disconnected. So I'm going to continue. So here, we have said our Firestore here has not done anything. So we forgot, not actually forgetting, we need just to initialize our database. Just click here on create database. Very simple, it's just click, 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 click. Nothing we are going to write over here. You see everything here, like the Firebase, the location, this is the server location. You can change if you want to, or you can just leave it the server location to be default. This is the physical server location that we are talking about here. So click on next. Instead of leaving it in production, leave this one in test mode. Click on test mode. And leave it in test mode. Just wait for it to provision. And it will be good in just a moment, and we should be able now to send our data to our database. So let's wait. My network might be slow. And that's how we basically connect the two. That is the database and our front end. Now the next thing will just be working on cloud functions. Now you can see here is where we should start seeing our collection over here. Maybe now I can refresh our application, create an email, then send that data to the database. Let's see. Now once the data is sent, this one has cleared automatic. Then I come here to my Firestore, I just refresh. After I refresh, now let's see. And there we go. I can see my first collection over here, and it's actually here. This is the email that I've inputted, and this is the timestamp, July 20th, 2024, 11:06, even the seconds here, like that, AM, UTC, +3, whatever this timestamp is, it has added everything we have added here. So that's how you basically now do that. But there's one thing that I need to check. I have added this email to the database. But let's assume now we were working as admin. We were adding this user as admin. I should have received an email saying that you have been added as admin, blah blah blah, and all the rest. So what we need to do is now work on a cloud function that does all that particular work. So let's do this. To start these cloud functions, very simple. Very, actually, is way more simpler than you think. These are, we call them transaction emails. So this one, I'm going to now open my terminal, still inside this part. Let me clear this. Now inside here, we are going to run something we call Firebase. We are going to run Firebase init, Firebase initialize, this command. Now after we run Firebase init, it will ask you, are you ready to proceed? Yes. Why? Just type Y for yes. Then over here, it will ask you, what do you want to do? Either Firebase init. Do I want to create a backend where in our backend, I just want to use my real-time database. I've said in Firebase you can do either connect. You see that thing that we have done in front end? That is the sending data to the Firebase, blah blah blah. You can either do it straight in the front end the way you have done it, or you can do it in the back end. Actually, these are the things that are being provided for us to use. As you can see, it's very a lot of things that are happening over here. So it's up to you to choose whatever you want to do. Either what? Just a moment, I check. Storage, hosting, functions, Firestore. Yeah, it's like that. Now here, you can choose the one that you want to do. In my case, I just want to use functions. Use your arrow keys and up and down, blah blah blah, all the rest. Because I want to use functions. Now to select this, you don't just enter. Press your spacebar in your keyboard. Spacebar, I want that. You see? I've pressed spacebar and then it has highlighted that. Now, maybe if I wanted Firestore as well, I press enter and that's how I select. To unselect, you just press again the spacebar. Now, if you select the functions, then I'm going to enter just like that. Then it will take me to the next step. Do you want to use an existing project, create a project, add Firebase to cloud platform project, or don't set up a default project? So I want to use an existing project. And to get the existing projects, these are the existing projects. You see in my Firebase. You see in my Firebase here. These are the existing projects. So it's referring to that. Use existing projects. So every time if you have a Firebase, just use existing project. Then press enter. Then it will go to my database. You see the project that we have created or some project is here. This data is being fetched online. Then it's being reflected over here. So use your arrow keys as well. It's obvious. Then just use the one you want to do. Maybe I can use something different just from away from this project that we created. Let me just use a random one still here. Then, but this one I'm using a different one because it's just demo purposes. But if you are working on a serious project, make sure that you just use that specific project that you are working on. So here you can, actually in Firebase they introduced Python in it. You can now use Firebase with Python for backend things, blah blah blah. Let me just use the normal JavaScript. I don't want to use TypeScript. Here, do you want to use ESLint to catch your bugs? No, I don't need it. Do you want to install all the dependencies with npm now? Let me just do that by default. And we wait for the functions to do its thing. Now, as we wait for it to do its thing, you can see there's a new thing that has been created in our files here. You see, we add no functions. But the moment we have done functions over here, it has actually created a folder for us and it has named it functions. So here is where we are going to write our backend code over here. In our index.js, it has actually provided the boilerplate for us to use. So as we wait for it to complete, you are going to see it here. This piece of code, we don't need it. We are going to use a different piece of code that we are going to write by ourselves. So in the meantime, we can just wait for it to complete. Now, there is a mailing module or library that is called Node Mailer. It's called Node Mailer. So this Node Mailer, it helps us actually it helps us now run or send emails with NodeMailer. So we also need to set up our NodeMailer. But no, our NodeMailer is a library that is in uh, in our backend. So because it's done, and I think it has broken, maybe my internet's very slow, but I think it should be Firebase initialization complete. So that one should be okay. So here I'm going to cd to functions, to this folder, these functions here. I want to install specific thing inside its own dependencies. So I'm going to npm install node mailer. Is that how we write node mailer? Node mailer, I think so. I'm going to install node mailer like that, and that one should pretty work well. And we are done installing our node mailer. So what we need to do is now write the code for our backend, and that code is very, very simple, so don't think it's going to be hard. It's very, very simple, so we can write it out. Anyone with any question before we continue? Anyone with any question maybe before we continue? And I'm also going to share the repository as well with everyone. So the repository that we are going to work with, I'm going to share it out. So don't worry about that thing we are going to do. So let me just write this piece of code that is going to achieve everything that we need to know over here. So just give me a moment. I switch my network. So inside here, I'm going to copy some code because we are running out of time. I'm going to copy some code, and then I'm going to show you how we go about this. Let me just copy this code, and then I'll explain what's going on. Go to functions. This code is public, you can access it in case you want to try it out. Yeah, let me just copy this all the way to here, then I will explain what's going on here. So you see in this piece of code here, we have functions, and we are calling this function here, and we require the functions, the Firebase function library itself. Then we also need to require the admin, and the admin is for you to integrate the backend, you need the admin. That one is mandatory, you need it. The NodeMailer is the NodeMailer that we have installed. This module, we need it. Then we also to install another module that is .env that is going to manage our env files. So I'm going to run npm install .env like that. Now our env module has been already installed. Then here I take the admin, then I initialize my app. You see the same thing that I've done over here. Initialize app, the same piece of code, the same syntax. Then const db is equals to admin dot firestore, because I'm going to take snapshots on queries, on events that they are going to happen there. So also here, now I create something we call transponder. So this transporter is going to is the one that is going to send the emails. But we need a service and it's going to send Gmail kind of emails. Then it's going to get the authentication. And this authentication is going to take the user, and that is the username. The username is the username of that email. Then the password is the password of that email. But that one doesn't work that way. It works differently. So for you to use the node mailer and enable it now to send applications, or to send not to send applications but to send emails, you need to really enable it in your Google account. So you just have to go to your Google account, then set it up for it to now to send emails from different platforms. And the first platform that we can think about is the node mailer. So this is how we set it up before we continue. Just go to this page, my account at google.com. Google.com. This is the page. Just go to this page, my account, blah blah blah. Let me share this as well in case you want to click it. That is Google My Account. We want to set up our email such that it can send emails. Again, if you have multiple emails, make sure that you are in the correct one. See this email? We want to enable this particular email to send emails in any application that we do. So come here in your security part. Here in your security, click security, then click on two-factor authentication. That is two-step authentication. Make sure that you set it up. Let me just log in. Make sure that you set your two-factor authentication, and now it has authenticated. Then once you click that two-factor authentication, and make sure that you set it up, blah blah blah, if you have not set your Gmail two-factor authentication, then scroll all the way to bottom and you see app passwords. You see this place where you have your app passwords. Click. If you don't have any, already I have one, just click any button that will appear, that is create or add app password or add app. Click on this. Then inside here, click on create a new app specific password type. And this app is the one that we are going to use to send data to the database. Not to send data to the database, but to send emails. That is going to authenticate us and enable us to send emails. So here, create your app name. Ours was awesome project. Then click on create. Then you see this one, this password that has been generated here. Your password for your device is this password here. So copy that. Make sure that you copy before anything else. Before you click done, make sure that you copy it. I repeat, make sure that you copy this one. Then click on done, because I don't think there is any way on earth you are going to see this again, that app password. See, there's no way. We just need to delete it. There's no way we are going to see it. So that app password, now here I just create .env file, and where I'm going to just paste that, I'm going to store that there. We are going to use it later. So you see this user password, this one here, this user password. This user password, we are going to set up this password like this. This user password, set it up like this and remove all now these white spaces here. User password, and the other thing that we need to use that we have defined is this user email. The user email, actually the user email is the email that I'm going to use, progskill1@gmail.com. This one is the email that we are authenticating here in our platform. So that one should be it, or should be that particular one. So once we do this, or once we create this app password, now this code now is the one fetching the user details. The reason why we are doing this, we are adding it here because maybe we want to push this code to GitHub, and we don't want it to expose our environment of variables to the public or to anyone who might use all these keys, your private keys, your passwords, your apps, blah blah blah, all those things. We don't want to expose them. So after here, due to time, because I can see we are running out of time, I'm going to copy other piece of code, and then I'm going to explain what really is happening in our piece of code. So our code is here. Let me just copy it. Let me just copy this piece of code that sends the email, and then we explain just like our cloud platform. Now, here, you see, we have exports dot send new send email to new admin. This is just the function name. You see the way you write the function name, for example, like here, add user. This is the function name. This one is just the same as writing this function the way here, and then you export it here. So in cloud functions, we use exports dot send email to new admin. That is the function name. Then is equal to functions dot Firestore. Remember these functions, we have already imported them here. Dot Firestore. Then dot document. This we want to do a certain activity. So go to our Firestore database. Go to our Firestore database. I think I've switched this. I'm going to use this one here. Go to our Firestore database and check any collection. That is the Firebase collection of users test program. And I think I'm going to switch this because I typed a different name here. I think I'm going to change this name to this. So this is the collection slash the document ID. This document ID, we are not writing something special here. You can use the DID still, it will work out, it's the document ID, but let's use a normal language, that is the document ID. And this ID is not any special ID that we are getting them from the blues. This is just an ID that has been automatically generated by Firebase. So maybe I can check the database users test program. My internet is slow, so we are going to bear with me as it loads this collection here. So we are going to see the document ID that is being printed over here. But we want to listen to an event. And the event is basically creating a document. And creating a document is this particular action we have created here. The action here is basically simple. This particular action is the one that we are creating here, and the action is sending data to the database. So I've just switched to a different application, but you can use any application of your choice. I'm just switch to the one that I was writing to test. So here, once a new document is created, is the one we are using here. Dot on create. On create what? On create a new document, then send data to the database from this collection. We define a variable here, user data, and this user data we want to really show from our backend. We want to fetch this data to our database, to our backend. So we use snapshot.data, and we have fetched that data from the backend. And now this data is already here. You see, this data is already here, but we don't know how to use that data. We have fetched it, but we have not displayed it to the front end. We have just fetched it. Now, inside that data, we have a specific thing. That is email address. So you set a const email user data dot email, the email that has been added. And this one is the email that has been added over here, in case you are wondering where the email is from. Now, why are we fetching this email? Instead, we can see we are not fetching the timestamp and the rest, because we want to send data, or we want to send an email to this person, and this person is this person here. So remember, we created a transponder here with the domain, with authentication domain and the rest. So what it's going to do is it's going now to create that mail template, that emailing template. Mail options, you can call it the name you want to. Now check from progskill1@gmail.com, or this one you can, instead of using this one here, you can use this one you initialized here, process.env.user email and the rest. You can still use it like that. Then it will send to this user email, the email that we fetched. That is the user email we fetched. Then the subject will be welcome to blah blah blah, the statement that you are going to do. Then the text is this particular text. You see this section here is the normal section that we have in our Gmail. This one here, where you compose your email to this person from, by default it's picking our default email. The subject is this subject that we type over here. Then the text is this normal text that we type over here. So there's nothing really new to that. Then after that, if we fetch and we map everything here, now we can now call our transponder to send email now, or it can now send email if really there's an action going on here. So we use try catch to catch the error message in case this email is not being sent, or maybe the person who was typing the email, for example, you see this email, I don't really think if there's anyone on earth with the example@gmail.com. I don't think so. So if this email does not exist, this email really doesn't exist in any Google account. So it will give you an error message. I can't send this message because of this and that. But in case that was true, in our await, we use the transponder that we created here, we call a function that is sent mail, we're here, that is sent mail. Then we pass our mail options, and the mail options are this here. This is just the same thing. This one, you see this one here, is the same as now. Instead of writing this, you write everything. This one, you write everything inside here. It's the same thing. And now We can console logs, gee, what joint email notification sent successfully, and that one will automatically send email to this particular user. And now we can test our application, and our application should be working. But I remember there is something that I've done. You remember the part that I did Firebase in it, and then I selected a different project, not the awesome project that I'm using. That means I really need to change most of these things. For example, this configuration file. So let me just go to Firebase and then pick the correct configuration file for this particular project. Because I think from my Firebase, I changed some few things. So I'm just going to change this. This one should be working. Then, did I really? But we can try it out. We can try it out. To try these things out. This is backend. We have just created our backend, but we have not started our Firebase, or we have not started anything. So to start our application, we do this way for our backends. Remember, we have two different applications running at the same time, front end and the backend. So we need also to start the front end, so the backend. So we do Firebase. Here we do Firebase. What do we do? Firebase emulators. We call them Firebase emulators, :start. Start the emulator suite, and then wait for it to start our backend so that we can try it out. We see over here now, we see the links. We see some links here. We can decide to explore these links. Now it will take you to this Firebase emulator suite. So this one, you can see all the emulators that have been ignited. For example, you see the Firestore is off, the real-time database is off. You only have the functions emulator that is on. So that one, we can try our application out. So if we try our application out, we add a new email. Here, we should receive an email telling us this specific message. Welcome to Prog Skill Coding Program 20th, something like that. We should see this email if we try it out. So let's do it. Prog Skill. Let me just add Evans. I type the correct email, then I add a user. Then I check from my database first if that user has been really added. Let me see. What collection was that? Let me just check it again. The name of collection was users test program today. That was the name of the collection. But in case we can't see it, we can check from here if we add any error message that was printed out here. We can't see anything. So we need user test program today. We have done the Firebase configuration well. So we just needed to, maybe let me just refresh here so that it picks the new environment. Let me try it out. Refresh here. Yeah, Here we go. So it was not picking, and we can see that the email has been added. Then let's check from our email. It seems that email has not been sent to us. So there is another option that you can try to run this application. Either you can try to check your emulators and see if we had any error over here. For example, the error message that we are getting here from our Firebase emulator suite was a function ignored because the Firestore emulators does not exist or is not running. That means we have just run the Fire functions emulators and it failed our application. So then the other option is is the last option. And the last option that you can try it out is doing what I like most. That is deploying your application. So you can deploy it to the real Google Cloud Platform. That is the GCP, and then it will deploy your functions and everything should be well. So to deploy this is very simple. In case you are using Yarn like me, you just run Yarn build, or if you are using npm, you do npm run build for you to compress and build your application. But because I'm using Yarn, let me just run Yarn build like that. Once I'm done running Yarn build, I'm going to deploy my backend alone. I don't want to deploy my front end. So what I do, I'm going to run Firebase deploy only functions. And these functions is only the backend, and these functions is these functions here. In case you are wondering where I'm getting the functions from, is this function like this. It should be Firebase deploy. This is only function because I just want to deploy the functions, not anything else. Remember, I've built my entire program, including the front end, including the back end. So in that build file, I just want to deploy only functions. So I'm going to do that and see what's happening here. Then this one should be waiting for it to deploy. This one I'm going to type no. I don't want to delete any cloud function that was existing in my project. Then I'm going to wait for it to complete the deployment. I'm going to wait for it to deploy. Once it deploys, we test and then we end the session. It takes some time because it's trying to configure everything correctly online and set up all the necessary things. So we can wait it to deploy. Anyone with any question as you wait for it to complete the deployment and then we end the session. Anyone with any question, you can raise your hand, you can still speak out. So so to get your Google Cloud Platform, and see where your application is cleaning up, and there we go. It has done deployment. So to check your backend of your deployment, we check it in the Google Cloud. That is the GCP. So you just go to console.cloud.google.com, and then you get your backend over here. You can explore everything. This one is very fantastic. Fantastic. You can explore this thing, is very awesome. I would advise you try it out. So I'm going to do all the things necessary. I'm going to refresh that. You can see no email. I'm going to refresh my front end over here. Then I'm going to try it out now. Let me make sure that the email is correct. Then I add user. Then I come here, refresh and see. It seems nothing happened, so I can go to my my cloud and see if we have any errors. Let me just see here. See any new error message. So here is where you get the error message in case your application failed and the rest. So I can see we have an error sending email, no recipient found, no recipient found. That means my email might be wrong, no recipient. So I'm going to check if this is my correct email. This one should be working perfectly. No recipients found. How? Yeah, I know. You see this one, this field is user email, but I think in our code, in our backend, this one is user email, this one is user email. Yeah, you see this one is not email. This one should be user email as well. That's why I say recipient not found. So if you want to deploy it again, always make sure that you build, yarn build, then Firebase deploy. Build, then you deploy only functions again so that they work online. So wait. Then we wait for it to deploy only that function. No. Then we wait it to deploy this particular function. You see, send email to new admin. So that is what going to send, and then we test it one final after it's done deployment. Then we say, we call it a day. So let's wait. It takes some time because it's deploying in the Google Cloud Platform. It makes sure that it has catched all the necessary bugs. Everything is correct the way it should be. That's why it takes some good time to deploy. So give it time for it to do that. Again, Cloud Platform is free to use. It's also paid. You can pay it, and actually you get $300 free of testing that they run for 1 year. That is $300. That's a lot of money in Kenyan shillings. Free of charge. Once you register, it will prompt you to select that offer. It's free. You don't have to pay for anything to use that 300. That one is just for testing your application. In case your application goes fast before 1 year, you're still going to use that for testing. And this one should be well. So this one, we should try it out. I should here I should now test my email. Evans Nyamai. Then now I add the user. That one has been sent. Now I check my email. And there we go. You see, we have the email. ProgSkill, welcome to ProgSkill program 20th. And there we got the email that we had drafted in this one here. Now, that one can happen to you. If you add a user to your, if you are adding students to your program, to your platform, you add them, send them an email. That's really fantastic. And that's where we close our session. And I'm happy that you joined and you stuck with us for around 2 hours worthy of session. Learning that is 1 hour 40 minutes. And I really thank you a lot, you guys, for joining. And I hope to see you next week. But in case you have any question, feel free to ask. I'm open for any question. And I hope you have learned a lot of things. So, anyone with any question? Thank you, Gungun. Thank you, Danson. Thank you, Ambetsa. Thank you, Luca. Yes, Luca Wanyama, you can ask your question. And thank you, everyone.